Well, do you know what, everyone? I'm so excited. I'm going to go live 2 minutes early. Well, I know there's loads of people in the comments. So obviously, my little eye saying there's nobody on is lying to me. So share this everywhere, guys, because I want to have a really big audience. I think this is really important. What we're going to talk about tonight, and as you know, as everybody knows, because I've harped on about it for a long time, I was a member of UKIP. I was on the NEC of UKIP. Yesterday, I sent an email to the chairman saying I'm resigning from UKIP and the NEC and basically joining Advance UK. And that is not a slight on UKIP whatsoever. I've stacks of time for Ben and the party. I think, and especially with the sort of struggles that they've gone through, thanks to all the chaos that's gone on in that part of British politics for the past 8 years, and they were there all the time, stalwarts. They didn't waver. But I think, in fact, I don't think, I know that with Ben and what Ben's doing, we have something on a completely new level. And I said to Ben several weeks ago, says Ben, says if you form a party around the ideals that are basically in the pledge, which is pretty much what it is, then I would join in a heartbeat. So I had to honor my word. And I think when it comes to parties, political parties, movements, associations with people, if I believe for the good of the country, I should go in a certain direction, I will go in that certain direction. I will be utterly ruthless, and I will cut all ties with whatever I was doing before and go in the new direction, because you've got to do that. It's as simple as that. You've got to go where you can best serve your country. It's not about party politics. It's not about parties. It's not about UKIP. It's not about reform. It's not even about Advance. It's about being in the vehicle that's actually going to change the direction of our country. And that's, if anyone knows me, that's what I've been about for the last 8 years or so. I got to push myself way more forward and in the front line than I did, but I've done a lot of stuff in the background for the past, since 2017. It's pretty much instrumental in getting the veterans and the football lads and Tommy involved in UKIP. We were quite instrumental in actually getting Gerard to be leader of UKIP. That was a big battle that we had to fight, and a lot of hurdles that we had to jump over. But again, UKIP didn't work in 2018, 2019. Unfortunately, it could have worked, and we could have been sitting in a position now. And this is why I still have maximum stacks of respect for UKIP. We could have been sitting in a position now where we had a party that was militant against all the problems that we face, and was probably sitting in the position that Reform's sitting in now. And that's why I've joined Ben's party, because I believe that Ben. By the way, I've got a special guest that I'm adding in right now, so just hold that thought. Hold that thought. David, straight on the again. Apologies, I went early.
Keen, that's good.
No, honestly, I am. I'm so excited about what's going on, David. The more I think about this, the more I think this is absolutely the right time and the right idea. And what I was saying, David, I was saying there's no hard feelings against UKIP. I'm not doing this as a slap in the face to UKIP, because obviously I was on the NEC of UKIP until yesterday. I didn't know this was happening for sure until Sunday night. So it was like, it's been a very quick thing. But what I was saying, David, was when it comes to party politics, I'm not really a party political guy in a certain sense of the word. I want to be in the vehicle that is going to basically storm through the barricades and take back Downing Street. That's what I want to be in. And sadly, as much as UKIP's done a fantastic job at changing the direction of British politics, that is no longer the vehicle to do that. We need something, in my opinion, that's a lot more that has a broader appeal. And I think that's what we've got in Ben. And obviously we know the people around Ben, we know what's going on there, and we have a good idea of what's happening. David, you're just the reason I brought you on. You're hot off an interview. I watched the interview. You did a fantastic job. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen this, you can get it on YouTube. You can get it on Twitter. David, yeah?
Yeah, you get it everywhere. It's everywhere by now.
Such David
Yeah.
Vance, Ben Habib interview, an absolutely fantastic interview. Again, I'd like to have seen it a bit longer. I think we need to pin Ben down to an hour and a half interview where we really grill him, David. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to
I mean,
push him.
honestly, I could have done a 2-hour stream on
Yeah,
it, because there's so much to talk about, Richard, as you rightly point out. And I had 30 minutes. I'd actually asked for a few people to give me questions. I had
yeah.
like over 100 questions in the space of 5 minutes. I had my own questions, and I thought, well, no, we'll just get the top line for now. And I'm sure Ben will come on with you. I'm sure he'll come
Yeah.
back maybe with me, and there's plenty of time to get into more nitty. But I thought it was very interesting, the stuff that he was saying.
Oh, superb. And again, just he's a very deep thinker. So he's
Yes,
looking, instead of looking at tactics. You know, what is it? I think it's in The Art of War, or one of the either The Art of War or some American general said.
everything's in the art of war.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, isn't it just? Isn't it? It probably isn't. It's like when you hear people quoting the Bible, and I go, "Well, I've read the Bible about 20 times, and I really don't think that's in the
that's in
Bible."
it. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
hands up, I haven't read The Art of War. The book's sitting in there. I've read little bits of it, but I haven't read the whole book. So, but I'm reliably informed. But it's this little saying, that tactics without strategy is just the sound before defeat. Tactics without strategy is just
Good
the
one.
sound
Good one.
before defeat. And
Yeah.
what I see with Ben, and this is why I'm going to encourage everybody. Let's give this a go. Well, again, apart from me thinking this is the absolute last chance saloon, David, but with what Ben's got, Ben is a strategist, and he's got strategists around him, right? So I think that we have to, in the same way Ben's giving it a go to get the 30,000. Well, we need to get him that 30,000 and see what he does with them, because there is no other show in town. With all the best will in the world, as much as I love UKIP, and I'm very fond of the guys there, the truth of the matter is they are not going to win the next general election. Here's the thing: if Ben gets this right, Ben actually could win the next general election, David. I really believe that. That sounds crazy, but I genuinely believe that.
And don't you think, and this is something I think we both believe, Richard, is that 2029 is the final. It's the final stand. If we don't get a proper change in 29, we're gone. We are, because at that point it's arguably that's almost too late. But 29, we could still change things, and that's why you got to have a vehicle that can deliver change. Now, reform people will tell you that's reform, and they may think that. But my biggest worry of all is that in 2029 we see a betrayal from Nigel Farage, and we've seen it previously, so it wouldn't be unusual. And then we're gone. We've got to the cliff, and we're over it. And Ben is so principled and so different to
He's
Farage.
so different. He's so different. He is a man of his word, and that's why I had to do what I did, because I said to Ben, Ben, if you set this party up, I will leave UKIP. Right? I gave him, and it was a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't that long ago, and so I had to do that because I've since I first. Do you know what Lord Pearson said to me, David? About 4 years ago, I was in a meeting with Lord Pearson, and I said, "What do you think about Ben Habib?" Because I've seen him on the media. I thought, he's very bright. I says, "What do you think of him? Is he the real deal?" Lord Pearson said this to me. He said, "He's my protege." He says, "I mentored him." Right? That's what Malcolm said. He says, "I mentored him." I says, "Well, look,
you don't get better than Lord Pearson.
That's good enough for me."
Yep, Lord Pearson, absolute gem. Yeah. So I mean,
So that really, and then I met Ben, about a year ago, and it was when we were doing the pledge. Ben is the only mainstream politician. In fact, no, I'll get that right. The only politician to assign the pledge. I mean, it was there on a plate for UKIP. The pledge, 50,000 people, more actually, near 60,000 people. It was there on a plate for them, and they didn't want to know. So what can you do? I mean, it's not. And again, I don't want to get into one of these, situations where I'm backwards and forwards. But what I would say to UKIP is, I would say this to UKIP. I would say it to the SDP. I wouldn't say it to the Heritage Party, but that's another story. But I would say to UKIP and the SDP, just get on the bus. Get on the bus, because this is if we get behind this, this can win. David, over to you. I've done enough waffle. I'm excited
No,
about this.
no, Richard.
I'm energized.
I'm all ears. I mean, the thing about it is that, you know, in the final analysis, and this is something Ben said when he was with me, that, you know, it's bums on green seats that will make the difference. It doesn't matter about all the other stuff. The only thing that matters is unfortunately, or not, power. You've got to win power. Can these smaller parties, and I probably, like yourself, I know all the people involved in them, can they win? Well, no, because they've proven that they can't, sadly. And that's that might upset people, you know, and I know good people in all of those parties, but realistically, it's going nowhere. There's a chance with what Ben's doing as a party to go somewhere. There's a chance. And it's not a good thing.
It's a great thing because honestly, David, Ballymena happened. I spent about, you know, the documentary is going to be dropping hopefully in the next 2 weeks because I want to give it a really deep dive. I don't want to just do a superficial level, you know, look at Ballymena. I've spoken to a lot of people up there. I've got something like, I don't know, 50 hours worth of interviews. I mean, I've got to chop that all down to little bite-sized bits. It's a nightmare. But anyway, that's a problem I've made for myself, right? But Ballymena showed me two things, right? First of all, it showed me that there is a fighting spirit still among the British, right? Because obviously in Northern Ireland, we're British, right? Which is a good thing. But the thing that worried me about Ballymena was it set aside 150 years of Robert Peel's policing with consent. It set it aside because the police had not acted in Ballymena. They had not come in and helped the people there with a let's be honest, let's put the sword to this nonsense that it was about race. It wasn't about race. As one of the guys who was talking to me said, he said, if that was members of the Orange Order or an all-white group, he said, we would have put them out as well. He says it was about people drug dealing, prostituting their children in some cases, allegedly indecently assaulting little girls, bullying people, firearms, you know, a litany of offences. It was about felony. It wasn't about race. So, you know, but anyway, the reason that made me take a sharp intake of breath, anybody up and down the country that was watching that will go, oh, hold on a minute. Actually, that worked. Now that's worrying. That's worrying because the danger there is that people set aside the rule of law. They set aside politics and they go, do you know what? Law of the jungle. The police aren't going to help us. We're going to do our own thing. And that is a very, very dangerous situation. That's what David Betts has been talking about with his talks on civil war and so on and so forth. So, David, I think in 2029, if we cannot win power, I mean the demos, the main body of the British people, if we can't gain power in 2029, we're looking down the barrel of at least major civil disturbances, an authoritarian crackdown, and
yeah, I completely agree, Richard. And in fact, I don't know about you and what your viewers think, but I even think as we're talking today, you know, on the 1st of July, you can feel in the air a sense of people saying, we're kind of sick of this now. We need to have people that represent us doing what we want. Because this, you read stories every day, horror things that are going on, and Ballymena was just one wee example of it. But what you saw firsthand up in Ballymena, Richard, we could go around the UK, couldn't we, and find loads of places just like that, tinder boxes. Well, and ultimately, a tinder box will go up. So to stop that, we need this.
It's either politics, a spiritual revival, or some sort of major civil upheaval. And you know, the question is, why are the state doing this? Why is it deliberate? I mean, you listen to Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings says it's just stupidity. They're just inadequate, inept, ideologically driven morons. That's pretty much what Dominic Cummings' position is, right? I think Douglas Murray would probably say the same sort of thing, but I'm not so sure it's not more malevolent than that. Get that word out, spit my teeth out. But what do you think, David? I mean, is it by design or is it?
Oh, I think it's demonic. I mean, I'm really simple. I think it's all driven from a higher level. It manifests itself down through the political realm, and you know, that's why you have things that, I mean, it's obvious that most of, I've said this for such a long time, many of those in power, They hate us, and they're driven by
Oh,
hate. And you
yes.
know, can I just say, you mentioned Ballymena. I seen Ballymena had its first Pride parade. Did you see that the other day?
Unbelievable. Couldn't
And,
believe
and,
it.
and that's
Could not believe
deliberate.
it.
That's absolutely deliberate. That's the deep state saying,
Yeah.
and the higher power saying, I can control Ballymena as well. Look at this. And mind you, if you looked
Yeah.
at the images of it, a bigger freak show, you'd go a long way to
Oh,
find.
I mean, do you
But
know
but
what,
it was
David?
deliberate. It was deliberate.
It's
You saw the
deliberate.
good side of Ballymena, the people
Yep.
rising, and now
Yep.
they're countering with, but look at the lovely rainbow. You know, so it's
Absolutely.
I've seen some of the. It is evil. It's evil, demonic, and by people who hate just ordinary folks like us.
They do hate us, David, and it's because they're demonic. If you look at the legislation that's been passed in Parliament in the last 2 weeks, full-term abortion, that is infanticide. It is murder. It's if that once that law's passed, things that people would have gone to prison for 6 months ago, they will be getting a promotion in the NHS for. Oh, how many babies have you killed this week?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
monstrous. It's absolutely
yeah.
monstrous. And then on the other side of it, by the way, if anyone gets a chance, Peter McCormack, podcaster, he does some great stuff. He's done a podcast about this culture of death that's in the British left. And again, it is demonic, David, right? So
It is. I think.
the late, I mean, it's till birth abortions. That's not an abortion. That's a murder of a baby as it's being born. Absolutely monstrous, right?
It's basic Baal worship. It's Baal
It is.
worship. It's what they did back. You know, it's in the Bible, and
Yep.
it's what it's. So you see, I actually think the longer I live, the more I realize that things are always kind of the same. It's just that our eyes open up. You know, our eyes open up. Can I just address one thing, Richard? Because
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of comments on this, and this is on the vote splitting issue.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
this
yes.
is
Very good.
something
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to mention this. So you know, I don't think you can split a vote, because to split a vote means that votes are absolutely contained. Your vote, Richard, is already been predestined to go to someone. It hasn't. Everyone's
Yep.
vote is free. And I think Ben was of the view, and it's my view, that in the marketplace of ideas, which politics should be, you put forward your thoughts, I put forward my thoughts, people
Yep.
decide, and that's it. So, sorry, you're not splitting the vote. If you
No.
go down there, let's split the vote reform, you're splitting the vote, there would have been no reform party now, would there? So you've got to
Exactly.
just, folks, I understand people get very emotional about this, but I'm just saying, put out good ideas, see what happens. Ben Habib was the first politician in a long time that I've interviewed who brought up Christianity with me. If you heard him,
I saw that. I saw that.
he said that. I mean, we are a Christian nation. Well, amen to that, and we are. And so,
Yes.
like, those are things to admire about Ben. And you don't. I've never heard Nigel Farage say we're a Christian nation. Isn't that strange?
Well, yes, exactly, and that's very, very true. And the reality is, I think this is where the difference comes in. I'm not saying Ben's a Christian, because he's never said whether he is or what he believes.
I don't know.
And again,
I don't know.
that's between
business.
him and God. It's none of my business.
Hmm.
Everybody's faith is a very personal thing. But he's certainly got Christian principles, right? He's certainly got Christian principles, and I think that's something, again, that we need in politics. We need, and he's a man of integrity. Now, what I would say to everybody that's saying we're going to split the vote, okay, well, here's a scenario, right? A lot of the rank and file of Reform realize the emperor's not got no clothes, and they go, well, Ben was in Reform, and Ben was the deputy leader of Reform, and Ben was a Brexit Party MEP, and Ben's put his name in the ring for election twice, and been unlucky because he didn't get the support of the party. Same way Ricky Doolan's going to come on later on, and he had the same situation with another party. So the reality is that Ben has been there. He's been in the trenches. He's gone out on the campaign trail. So it's not like, don't think that Ben is a novice. Ben is an extremely experienced businessman. He's extremely experienced in politics now, and he's also very, very clever, which is really important. And I mean, here's the thing. And I'm not attacking anyone, right? But could you see anyone from the smaller parties being prime minister? Name any of the smaller parties, and that's not a dig at them. It's not a
No.
dig. Some of them are either too young and too inexperienced, and maybe still a bit sort of excitable. Others are just don't have it. And of course, the prime minister we've got shouldn't be a prime minister either. But
Oh,
I
well,
could
that's
see,
true.
I
Yeah.
I could see
Yeah.
Ben standing next to JD Vance or Donald Trump. I could see Ben dealing with the Chinese and not letting them get one over on us. I could see him doing that, and I think
Mm.
I couldn't see Farage doing it. I certainly couldn't see Kemi Badenoch doing it, or Robert Jenrick, whichever one we're going to get. They're two cheeks of the same backside, as far as I'm concerned, and obviously Calamity Keir and
Mm.
and the ginger growler. I mean, take your
Yeah.
pick.
No, Ben believes in the United Kingdom. That's why it's
Yeah,
called Advance UK. And he
yeah,
gets more than any other politician I've come across the local aspect, the Northern Ireland part of it. So, I mean, and he mentioned, I mean, the fact that I think he would want to have a relationship with the TUV in Northern Ireland, the Traditional Unionist Party
yeah.
voice, which is Jim Allister's party, and which I was a part
We
of,
both know.
as
We
you know.
both know Jim. We both know Jim, and
We know
Jim's a good
Jim,
guy. I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
And Jim's another extraordinarily principled guy. So I just sort of
and very
feel that,
able, very able
and
as
very
well.
competent.
Yeah,
A very effective, very successful barrister back in the day was Jim, and he's still
yeah.
got that ability, as you've seen
Oh,
him in Westminster. But I could see, just
absolutely.
like you say, I could see Ben in Westminster being an extremely effective voice. But
Yeah,
I know it's hard for people to accept that. Hopefully could be a minister. Well, you never know. You never know. You
yeah.
should never say
It,
no to anything. But
look, I
I
mean,
just think this is
I think
a proper vehicle,
yeah.
Richard.
Uh,
Advance UK
it's
is
so
a proper
exciting. It's
vehicle.
so exciting. I mean, and again, okay, people might say, "Well, Richard, you've rushed in there. You've jumped from, like I've only been in two parties. I was in For Britain until it folded. I was in UKIP back in 2017, 18. I rejoined UKIP last year, and then was on the NEC in UKIP. So
Yeah,
I've seen these parties at the highest level. I was very friendly with Gerard Batten. I was very friendly with Anne-Marie Waters.
yeah, yeah,
So I've seen the way the parties work, and I've got to go with my gut, and I've got to go with my conscience, and I've got to go with what I think is going to be best for the country. And
yeah.
my message to my ex-comrades in UKIP is get on board this train. Just get on board, because
Mm,
Ben has said
mm.
he'll welcome you with open arms. Same to the SDP.
Well,
I don't think there's any other parties worth talking about, to be honest with
I,
you. The
I
SDP
think,
and UKIP, I think if they came together around this and got behind it, I think that'd be an amazing thing.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think. I mean, one of the questions, the final question I asked Ben was, if Nigel Farage asked to join Advance UK, could he? Would you have him? And he said, yeah, on the
Yeah.
basis that he would have at that point resigned from Reform UK. Ben's got a bit of a sense of humor.
Oh, he's a great sense of humor.
He's not a massive egotist. He understands, I think, the fundamentals. This is a Christian country,
Yeah,
regardless of his own personal faith. It's a Christian country. That's the ethos. We can't have parallel systems. He gets all of that, and that's more robust than anything I've seen from Nigel Farage, at any
yeah.
rate. But Ben puts it in a way that won't scare the horses, so to speak. He articulates things well. So
Well,
I think it's going to be really interesting. It
I
would
think
be
so.
lovely if Rupert had have come on board, and we shouldn't ignore the elephant in the room. That would have been
Oh
lovely.
no,
But Rupert chose not to. So people need to address that to Rupert. I know Rupert's doing really well online in the last couple of days. I see all
yeah,
of that. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be voting for Rupert's party because there isn't one yet. Ben has a
exactly.
party that you could vote for tomorrow, and he's
Yes,
got a strategy, as you say rightly, Richard, to get to 30,000 members, and that's enough, he reckons, to cover the country. And as he pointed out to me, that's the number of members that Reform had going into the last election. So he knows what he's talking about.
he knows what
He
he's
really
doing.
does.
He knows what he's doing, and I think there's what is it? I think there was about 19% of the electorate that are actually on the electoral register didn't vote last time. Was it more than that, David? Was it more than 19%? It was something huge.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
There's enough people didn't vote last election to get a super majority for one of the radical right parties, and we call it radical right, but it's not really radical right. One of the common sense parties. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's how I
Ben
see it,
Ben doesn't even like to be, and I agree with this. Ben doesn't like being called right wing, and he's right, because we're not right wing. We're just right. It's not a question of being on the, this right wing left thing is such an archaic way of describing what we're doing.
That's how, exactly, Richard. That's how they conquer and divide. The oldest method of control ever. One thing I took out of COVID was that people, and you saw it in Ballymena as well. We've got so much more in common than divides us. But the game that's played is it's all about division, and we shouldn't be divided. And I also, can I just say, I agree with the comment on the thread here that you can actually be a part of Advance UK, Ben's party, and also sign up to Rupert's. And in fact, Ben's signed up to Rupert's. So it's not mutually.
And I think I will too. I will.
There's no reason why you can't do both and wish them both well. And I think that's what we want to do. I don't want to talk Rupert down. But I think
absolutely not.
So it's valid and it's brilliant, some of the stuff he's putting out there. I think you've only just started to see some of the stuff that Ben will put out there. So that's all to come. But between the two of them, this is a real, valid, fresh alternative to the Nigel Farage one-trick pony show. That's what I think. And, so I think you've made a good decision today. I mean, obviously, some people will be upset that you've gone, but you got to follow, your instinct, I think, in these things.
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to saving the country, I'm utterly ruthless, David. I don't care who I offend. I don't care who gets upset with me. They can go and cry into their lattes. I'm not interested. It doesn't matter because this is our country and we're only going to get one go at this. I've been fighting for my country since I was 18 years old and I'm not going to stop, so it's like, this is, I used to say this to the veterans, David. I says, we're actually doing what we're doing now as veterans involved in this movement is actually far more important than anything we did when we put a uniform on. Even if you were a lieutenant colonel or a high-ranking officer, what we're doing now and the influence that we can have if we get this right is absolutely phenomenal. And let's look at this, David. I mean, obviously, one of the people I would love to reach out to is Dominic Cummings. I would love to see someone reach out to, and I know he's got a bad rep, and everyone thinks he's the Prince of Darkness and all the rest of it. But if you ever watch Dominic Cummings and listen to what he says and read what he says, he knows exactly what needs to be done in Whitehall, and he would go in there.
He does,
with a baseball bat, a shotgun, a pair of pliers, and he would just rip those wrong uns out of that civil service and throw them on the scrap heap.
But I think this is a positive note, actually, for me to wrap this bit up with you, Richard, because I need to move on. But there's lots of good people about. Let's take the positive out of all of this. There's lots of good people about with integrity who really care, like you, for the survival of our country, to make Britain great again, and and to make this a prosperous, peaceful, United Kingdom. There's more of us out there than they let on. We need to find a way to catalyze that and bring it together. And I think Advance UK is going to be a really important element of that. And that's why, I think, since I did that show earlier tonight, I've had friends of mine who aren't even that political come on to message me saying, I've joined in the past hour. I've been messaging them.
My wife has never joined a political party. She used to hate what I did, and she joined Advance yesterday. I had to pay it. I had to pay it, but she still joined.
Well, as I've said to you, the best reason of all to join the party and support it is because it's got my name right in the middle of it.
That's it, exactly.
It's in the middle of it. I'm kind of feeling it's got my name written all over.
It's got your name all over it, David. And you can't not join. You know what I mean? But one last thing, David. I mean, obviously. I'm going to be brutally honest, but I'm not saying this in a judgy way because everybody's got their own agency, right? But a lot of influencers yesterday did not jump on board straight away, and there was in fact quite the opposite. Some of them were very negative, and I was kind of, I looked at that and I was like, You know, so I think they will get on board. I think they'll realize in about a month's time, oh, actually, this guy's a serious player. He's a serious operator, and he's going to do something really very, very that's never been done before. But I just was a bit disappointed with some of them. I'm not going to name them, but you know who you are if you're watching.
Oh, I know. We all know who they are.
We all know who they are. We all know who they are. You know, and listen, we know them, and I'd say it to the faces. So you know who you are.
Yeah, and I don't understand why there's a certain lack of charity about. They have certainly supported perhaps Rupert's side of things, but again, as we've said, what's the problem with supporting both? Be a member of Advance UK and be part of Rupert's grassroots movement. Do both. Let's prosper by working with each other. And those influencers, I mean, I would happily talk to Rupert Lowe tomorrow if I could.
Yes.
And give him a platform too, because I'm not discriminating against good people, because we are all on the one side. You, me, everybody in this stream. We've got so much in common. There might be that 1% of division.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be mug enough to let them separate it.
There's a question there about saying we're just copying. Richard, you should have been the leader. You're a natural. You're just copying everything Reform had done. I think the things, and that's not, by the way, this person is not attacking me there. It's a very fair comment that you're making there. But I think the thing is with Reform have rejected us. And if you're in this chat and you're on these comments and you're watching this video, it's very likely that Reform want nothing to do with you. They'd far rather go after. We're that lot.
That lot. That's right. That lot.
I might get a T-shirt with "I'm that lot" on it. Because that's what we are. We're that lot, and I'm proud to be that lot. I'm proud to be a British working class man who struggled all his life and fought for everything I've got. I'm proud I'm not Richard Tice. I'm proud I'm not Mohammed Zia Youssef or Nigel Farage. Because we are the real people. And do you know what? But the thing is about Ben, David. Ben is part of the elite, right? He's an elite education. He's had an elite career, but the difference is that Ben has got the humility to come down and chat with a no mark like me, right? And basically give us the time of day, whereas none of the rest of these people will, because they just see us as that lot. So this is the difference between the political elite that have ruined our country, destroyed our futures, destroyed our children's futures, and someone like Ben. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because we need someone that's got the intellect, that's got the education, that's got the qualities that Ben's got, but that also loves and cares for the working man, for the British working man.
And that's right. And he's not he's got huge amounts of courage, and he's not afraid to say things that need to be said. Richard, my wife has summoned me to have cup of coffee here because she's not seen me much tonight, so I'm going to have to go. But
you better go. I'm not going to be responsible for my own survival. Discourse. Exactly.
Richard, thank you very much for the chance to talk to you, and thanks everybody for putting up with me for half an hour. And speak soon, Richard. Cheers for now.
Follow David Vance. Get on that podcast that he did earlier. It's a brilliant podcast. You got to watch it. So go find David Vance on social media and follow him and watch that podcast, because it's absolutely fantastic. I think I've got another guest coming. I've got to check my phone. David, thanks so much for giving me your time.
Cheers.
I just want to have a chat. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, take it easy, David. See you soon. Well, guys, I mean, look. The reality is, Rupert. What Rupert Lowe's done is you see, there's so many different streams here, right? And there's going to be crossover. There's going to be all sorts of stuff going on. Oh, here we go. Here's Ricky. That is perfect timing. What about Ricky, mate? You are a man with absolute perfect timing. That's because you're a musician. You know what I mean? You're making beautiful music, Ricky. How are you, man? Can't hear you, mate.
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, I got you now. I can hear you. I'm good, mate. I'm excited. I must say, I am for the. I was getting to the stage, Ricky, right? And this is no word of a lie. When Ballymena happened, and at the end of the day, I'm not, by the way, I'm fully supportive of the people of Ballymena. This isn't a criticism of the people of Ballymena. But when Ballymena happened, I thought, do you know what? I think we're in really dangerous ground here now. Because what Ballymena proved was that basically physical force has an effect, right? Which is a very dangerous place to be, right? Now, and again, I know why the people did it. It wasn't racist. It's nothing to do with race. It was to do with putting gangsters. It was like an Equalizer movie or The Magnificent Seven. That's what happened to Ballymena. That's the truth, Of course, the media will not tell you that. But what I thought when Ballymena happened, Ricky, I thought, do you know what? This could spread, and this could be up and down the length. You know, when people look at the grooming gangs and go, hold on a minute, these guys have done what? They've attacked children. That's what they did over here. Do you know what I mean? So I was thinking this could be contagion. But what Ben's done, right, in launching this party has given me hope that there's a political way forward, because there's nobody out there like Ben Habib, and there's nobody with the strategic thinking, with the intellect and the background to do what Ben's doing, and the integrity. So, Ricky, give me your thoughts, brother. You've been watching this very closely. Tell me what you're thinking, man.
Well, I was really kind of keeping my eye on the situation, as I know, you know, millions of other Brits were also doing, because there's just been so many red flags and holes in reform that it's just become almost an unpalatable option. Do you know what I mean? So we were all waiting. I was hoping that it was going to be a unison of Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, and I think a lot of people were hoping that, and maybe there's still a little bit of hope in the future that might take place, because it would be better to unite those forces rather than have them divided. But I know that they both came out on the same day. You know, Ben with the party and Rupert with the movement, and there was a bit of kind of camaraderie and support from both of them, and Elon Musk was out there supporting them both as well. But we need an option. So I'm definitely keeping close eye on what's happening. You know.
Do you know what, Ricky? Here's the good thing about it, right? And this is where, you know, I hope, and again, you know, I don't know how close Ben and Rupert are, but I know they were very, very close when obviously Rupert was going through his court case. I know Ben supported him to a great extent, which, you know, that's just the measure of Ben. That's what he's like. And I don't believe there's been a falling out there. I believe it's just been literally a strategic difference, and it could be actually a very clever move, because here's the thing, right? Let's say Ben does the party and does very, very well with the party, and gets up to, I don't know, let's say 100,000 members, right? And then Rupert's doing his thing, and he maybe gets a couple of 100,000 people in Restore, right? That are supporting Restore, and you know, that would be a very, very powerful lobbying group. So those two things coming together, because look, neither of those guys are going to do anything to help reform, right? You've got to understand that. And these are the two guys that are two rock stars of the. I think Ben's quite right in not calling it right anymore, you know, but they're the rock stars of what our movement is. Basically a patriotic, nationalist, civic nationalist, nation-loving movement, right? And they have a tremendous amount of goodwill and support. So I hope that they stay close, that they keep chatting to each other, that Ben does the party and does very well with the party, and that Rupert does very well with Restore and all the other stuff like the pledge and like UKIP and everything else that's going on. And again, I said to, you know, I'm saying it publicly to UKIP. UKIP should just dive on board with Advance, in my opinion. Just do it. Just wrap it up and come on, get on the train, because this train's going somewhere, you know.
Well, I think they've obviously tried to cover, potentially, we're just speculating that between Ben and Rupert, they've kind of covered the political party side of things and the grassroots movement side of things, which means that cross-party people can get involved with the movement. They can get involved with the policies that they're suggesting, and I've seen a lot of good policies in the last 48 hours kind of be presented into the public. There's one or two that I don't agree with, but the majority of them I agree with. And I think if it is a strategy, it's a very smart strategy, and it potentially can have the right effect. Remember, there's 4 years until the general election, and I always think, you know, the right should not be splintered in its common cause. And I think that's where the movement that Rupert started is probably going to do some job to kind of cover them gaps, because we all need the MAGA type of movement to dislodge these radical left lunatics, basically, from the parliament, you know.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing is, here's the thing too about what Rupert's done. I mean, if people don't, if UKIP want to keep going with what they're doing, they could come under the umbrella of Rupert and get involved with what Rupert's doing. You know, my my thought is that you need to have a really strong party. So I'd like to see everybody say, I'm going to leave whatever party I've been in. And at the end of the day, I mean, obviously I was on the NEC of UKIP. So, I had a position of basically influence there. But I think with what Ben's doing, in my conscience, I have to go with Ben, because Ben is absolutely the finished article when it comes to a politician. But in fact, in some ways, he's probably far better than anybody that you have in Parliament at the minute, because he has, apart from maybe Rupert, but he has massive amounts of integrity. He's loyal to the people that support him, and he's got some really, really good policy ideas, and he's got clever people around him, some very, very clever, thoughtful people around him. And again, he's a strategist. And what we need now is, we don't need tactics. We don't need more demos, really. We don't need that sort of thing. And obviously, I'm not talking about 13th. The 13th is going to be massive and mega. But we don't really need a street movement, because that's already there with Unite the Kingdom.
Yep.
So we don't need anything else on the streets. What we need is a fighting force politically, because the only way that we can do this peacefully is by, in 2029, having somebody from our movement. I'm not talking about reform. I don't class reform as our movement. Somebody from our movement walking in the Downing Street as Prime Minister. And whether that's Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib, Tommy Robinson, I care not. I don't care whether it's any of those three men, right? I would have any of those three men walking through the front door of 10 Downing Street in 2029. Obviously, it's very unlikely Tommy's going to do it, but when it comes to Ben and Rupert, either one of them, and I think it's possible, Ricky. I think it's possible with what's happening.
Yeah, well, I think one of the prime examples that it is possible is the fact that reform came out of nowhere before the last election. Nobody thought they were going to do anything, and they came out. Now they've got 5 MPs, 4 MPs. I'm not quite sure, but they came out of nowhere to become this political force, because there was a big gap in the market, so to speak, where you've got all of the common sense thinking people around the country who are patriotic, who are proud of the country, who see the globalist nonsense that's taking place, and they want to do something about it. And reform just popped up out of nowhere, and managed to gather that kind of that fill that void. But many people like us, probably many people on your stream right now, I've seen the red flags. I'm tired of being called that lot, or knuckle draggers, or whatever it is. I'm tired that a British hero like Tommy Robinson can consistently be defamed. And for that reason, and them reasons, we can see, just like Elon Musk saw, that reform is not the solution. But now, if Rupert and Ben are going to form the solution, or if Ben's going to form the solution, or whatever, whoever's going to form that solution has got to be grounded and centered on our Christian heritage. And that's not what I've not heard anything from either of them yet. And that would be my big thing. And maybe that's part of your involvement too, Rich.
Ben said it on David Vance's podcast at 7:00. Just had David was just on before you. That's why I was saying that the time was perfect. So I watched that. Great. And that's why I got David on, because I thought, and he was very strong. He said, look, he said the Muslims believe that the Quran is the word of Allah, and it can't be changed and all the rest of it. He says I'm not going to attack Muslims. He says what I'm going to do is promote our Christian heritage and our Christian values. This country is built on Christianity, and he even went as far as to say that the current Prime Minister is trying to get rid of the bishops out of the House of Lords. Now, most of those bishops aren't worth tuppence, because they probably don't even believe in God, half of them, right? But the reality is, Ben wants to keep the bishops in, because if you get good bishops in the House of Lords that actually believe, that are evangelicals, charismatics, that believe in the Bible and believe in the power of God, that can have a massive influence on legislation. Look at some of the legislation that we've got coming against us, Ricky. This late-term abortion we're talking about earlier, this euthanasia. Crazy. Both of those bills are wicked and evil and satanic. Absolutely satanic. And I believe, as me and you have discussed, and again, I know there's a lot of Christians in the comments here as well. Me and Ricky have discussed this for years. This is a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle, and that's why I was so heartened. And believe you me, I know the people that are very, very close to Ben at the top of this, and they are Christians. And one of them is a very strong Christian and a very intelligent Christian. I'm not going to give names out because, again,
Yeah.
you know, it's
And
sort
that's
of,
great to
it's a
hear.
confidence, you know. So yeah, so there's some really good people there, Ricky, and Rupert. Not sure about Rupert spiritually, because Rupert did vote for the assisted dying thing when it first came to Parliament. Don't know if he voted for it the second time. I was very disappointed in that. Very disappointed, because, you know, quite apart from anything, it's not necessary. The assisted dying bill, with palliative care and you know, the way people can be treated now, it's down to bad medical treatment that people die in pain. You know, my mother passed away there. If she hadn't had the treatment she had, she'd have been in a great deal of pain. But they didn't give her drugs to kill her. They gave her drugs to take away the pain of what she was suffering when she was dying. So, you know, I just think it's a terrible, terrible thing, and I think that's why I'm really, really excited about what's going on, Ricky. And I think we've got to, as Christians, we've got to start praying for this stuff in a big way. I'm sure you probably are anyway. I'm just really rubbish at being a Christian, but but we need to, though. We need to. I mean, you know, I don't want to be sort of telling people to do things. I'm not doing it myself, but we need to be doing that. We need to be doing that because the country is in such a desperate state, and I think I think this is the last chance saloon, Ricky. If we don't have a political, if we don't take power in 2029, then we're into civil war situation. And I hate to say that. And I don't want a civil war. I know I've lived through a civil war, well, not a civil war, but a very low intensity civil war in Northern Ireland. A lot of my mates that served were out in Bosnia. They did Afghanistan. They did Iraq and all the rest of it. So any squaddy that served on active service and has seen his mates killed and has seen what happens in a conflict does not want a war, especially not when I'm nearly 60. It was bad enough when I was 18. Well, actually, to be honest, I quite enjoyed it when I was 18, but I don't want it now. I don't want it for my kids. I don't want it for my grandkids, you know. So we've got to do everything we can to get this done politically. And like I say, if people are offended with me leaving UKIP, tough, I don't care. When it comes to saving the country, I am utterly ruthless. I will go with the vehicle that is going to use my talents best and basically do the best job and actually manage to achieve something. And no disrespect to UKIP, they ain't going to do it. They're not going to win the next general election. As much as I love them and as much as I want them to do well and I want them to prosper, they're not going to win the next general election. Whereas Ben, with the right people around him, with the right party, look how quickly the reform was built. And I think reform will collapse under the pressure of Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe's relentless calling them out and showing them for what they are and showing that they are not what they're claiming to be. And I think they'll crumble. And I think when that happens, that's the opportunity to get everybody from reform who basically realize they've been sold something that looked like a brand new Bentley, and it turns out it's just a 1975 Skoda.
and look, I think you're bang on in terms of they'll be exposed because they're already being exposed. I don't know if you saw Sarah Potchin on some of the interviews in the last couple of days, exposed big time failure in understanding policies and even having viable solutions. But there's one thing about the truth is that the truth will always prevail. So the truth will come out one way or another. So the fact that, you know, we all, well, many of us, including me, supported Nigel Farage for many years, especially with what he did with the as an MEP and what he did with the Brexit. And then all of a sudden, the truth starts coming out in the last 12 months, 24 months, that it seems like there's more, there's less serving the country and more serving self. And we have to watch out for Nigel Farage 2.0 because there's a couple of them floating around as well. And, you know, it's very easy to follow somebody because they're saying the right things. But the measure of somebody's heart will be seen in their actions and their results. So we have to be wary of other people that are trying to capitalize on this big space that is in the general public of Britain. And a desire for the British public for change can bring people that don't have the public or don't have the country at heart, but have themselves at heart, and they want to capitalize on that. So we got to be careful about that as well.
It's demagoguery, Ricky, and there's no room for that in this country. And, you know, look, I think we've got to surround Ben in prayer. We've got to really pray that he is, and pray for his protection. because man, he's going to be a target. He's going to be a target for the enemy. He's going to be a target for, for people that want to stop him. So we need to pray that Ben has the right people around him, is kept safe, and that nobody, look, there's a lot of things can go wrong, right, when you start a new party. I was involved in For Britain when it was fairly new, and and Anne-Marie, I love Anne-Marie, but she's great. She was passionate. She really fought the fight, but she just got worn out by it in the end. It just wore her out. The constant attacks from but things have changed now, Ricky. I mean, look at this. It's nearly 10 o'clock at night. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching a podcast about politics, right? And there's a lot of interaction. And look, not everybody believes me. And if you're in the comments and you don't believe I've got the right ideas here, like there's Ben just messaged me. This just shows the measure of Ben. Thank you, Richard. Just got home. I greatly appreciate your support. How many other people in Ben's position take the time to message a nobody like me? Do you know what I mean?
People who are not even in his position and are way lower don't even do that. Some of them.
Yeah. Well, no, they don't. Exactly. I mean, that's exactly right. You're absolutely nailed it there, Ricky. So that to me speaks volumes of the man. But obviously, being a nice guy doesn't save the country. But He's not just a nice guy. He's an extremely successful businessman. He has the ideas, and he has bought into the pledge. He signed the pledge, and I'm going to be sending an email out to the pledge database soon, saying, guys, I'm not going to tell people what to do because that's not what the pledge is about. I'm going to say, look, this guy has signed the pledge. He's the only. Rupert might have signed it. Actually, somebody in the comments said Rupert signed it, but he's the only person that's publicly signed it and made a big deal out of publicly signing it. He was the official signing. Obviously, when that happened, Rupert was still in reform because he hadn't been booted out. So if he'd have come to the pledge signing, Nigel would have probably fired him for that. So he could have actually been working with Ben earlier if he'd have come to the pledge signing. Do you know what I mean? But so I think there's a lot of depth to what we've got with Ben and the people around him. And somebody in the comments put there that by this morning they had 5,000 people had signed up. And Ricky, I don't know if you can see it, but in the comments, there's people just. I've signed it. Sorry, I'm not signed it. I've joined Advance. I've joined Advance. So, and guys, listen, 1,000 people on here, right? See when you get off. Let me see if I can get the domain here. See when you get off, go and join Advance UK, because I really do think it's the way to go. Let me just see if I can share this screen here. Okay, just bear with me 2 seconds there, Ricky. Let me just do this. I'll just knock us out just for a few seconds. So this is where. Okay, share screen. Okay. This is where I just give my bank details away to everyone without realizing
it. As long as they're doing deposits, no problem. There we go. Put it out there.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Advance UK. If you can all see that, go on there and just fill in the form. It's advanceuk.org.uk/membership. I'll put it in the comments here as well. Advance UK. Let me just get that in there, and I'll boot that out and get us back in. But yeah, so Ricky, what's happening? I mean, where's this all going to go? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, we're going to find out, and I think what's important to know is that we need to take our country back from these far left lunatics, and just like Trump coming in for his second spell in America, if it was Kamala Harris that was going to win that one, you can imagine the state that the country was going to be in. And I think it was Elon Musk that said that if Kamala had won, there wasn't going to be another election. That was going to be the end of democracy. And you can see with Labour Party, they're exactly the same as the Democrats over there. They are withering and withering away our democracy, and giving away our sovereignty day by day, policy by policy, deal by deal. And the globalists are getting more and more power. And when that happens, it can be that type of place where democracy ends up disappearing. So this is a life or death situation. And you know me, I haven't threw my hat in yet with Ben and his party. just so that your followers know, because with everything that's going on, it can look like I'm a part of it, but I'm not yet. I'm observing, and you know, I came out of UKIP recently, and I just want to take my time with this thing. You know me, it's God first, country second, party third.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm exactly the same. And family before country and before party. I mean, that's the way it's got to be. So stats. Somebody popped in the comments there that when they joined, I don't know when they joined. Did they say when they joined? But they joined and they were my number is 0753. So that's 7,535 people have joined Advance UK already.
That's a lot.
That is absolutely phenomenal. So, you know, guys, you better join quick, because it's going to go up to 20 quid if you don't join before they get to 30,000. It's 20 quid, so you got to get in. Listen. I was brought up in North Yorkshire, or Middlesbrough, which is nearly North Yorkshire. People in Middlesbrough would hate me for saying that, but I've still got that sort of tight-fistedness. If I can save myself a tenner, I'll save myself a tenner. You know what I mean?
100%.
But
from the borough.
mate, I mean, yeah, from that borough, you see. Brought up there, born in Liverpool, brought up in Borough, and then living in Belfast. What a mix!
Love the
You
borough,
don't get
man.
much rougher, Ricky. Do you know what I mean? We don't get much rougher, do we? Do you know what I mean? You know?
Yeah, but we need a bit of grit in these days anyway. So I think what's really, I'll tell you this, Rich. I wanted to say this, is that people are tired of the fake nonsensical behavior. People are looking for something real. They're looking for something genuine. All of us, we're all looking for something genuine. We don't want this fake political ivory tower elite approach that look down on everybody, that scoff at people, that are too big to reply to text messages and send a text message like what you just showed with Ben. You know, we want people that are genuine, and the fake stuff, we're tired of it, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the reality is, look, you know, it's not about showmanship. And this is the thing about Ben. He's not going out there and saying, he doesn't. Do you know what? This is the sign of a true leader, I think. He's a reluctant leader. He's gone, do you know what? Because I said to him yesterday, I was chatting to him yesterday, I said, look, I'm sure you'd rather be on a beach next to a golf course, chilling out, than doing this. Because Alex Phillips wrote a horrible article yesterday, just, you know, saying, oh, all these middle-aged men that have got money now start political parties instead of going and playing golf. I mean, you know, she's a bit of a Nigel Farage fangirl. We get it. You know, I'm not going to slag her off because she's a Christian. She just became a Christian. But do you know what? The reality is, give Ben a go. You know, I mean, let him just tear away at it, because he's going to, well, look, listen, 8,000 at midday, 8,280. That is phenomenal to join a party. I remember when we were doing UKIP, Ricky, right, in 2017, 2018. Now, you got to remember, we'd all the football lads, we'd all the veterans, we'd all the kippers, all the old UKIPers. We'd Tommy come on board, right? And I think Jared said to me, we got up to, I think we put about 3,000 on in new members in UKIP, something like that. It was something really, really small. So I think it was under 20,000. Well, I can't remember the exact figures, but it wasn't a massive influx. And we were on that was before we all got banned from social media. That's when we had free reign. You know, I had hundreds of thousands of people on Facebook. That was back when Facebook was something, before Zuckerberg employed Nick Clegg. That was a good move, wasn't it, Zuck? Didn't work out too well for you, eh? But you know, so you know, that was when we had a social media presence. So for him to do this, now that's a worrying thing. Do you know what I'd say, Barbara? Go and try again, because it took me a while to join last night. And do you know what? I had this with the pledge when I first started the pledge. All sorts of teething problems with the email system, with people signing up. It's just the nature of web stuff. And again, if you're getting massive amounts of traffic, that can affect it as well. So if you're not getting through, again, I'm just a member. I have no executive part on this party. I'm not in the leadership. I'm just a number, right? I'm 1528 or something. That's my number, right? So if you haven't got through, try again, because I really do think Howard Cox, I think you mean Howard Cox there, Susan. He should be. Howard should be They should be. Do you know what? I would love to see Howard Cox and Dominic Cummings involved in this party.
Yeah,
Because
Howard Cox
is a
tweeted.
massive reach.
Howard Cox tweeted something today. I'm pretty sure he's gone that direction.
Yeah, has he? Brilliant. I mean, that's the thing. Okay, someone's asking about UKIP. Look, I think it's very simple. Look, listen, it's great that Nick openly professes his faith. You know, absolutely fantastic. He's very bold, getting out there, doing all the activism. That's all well and good. But the reality is we need something a lot more serious. I think it's as simple as that. And that's not me disparaging UKIP or disparaging Nick Tenconi. You know, I know Nick, but he is not in the same position as Ben for all sorts of reasons. He's not that old. And we've seen what happens when we have really young prime ministers. And he's not going to look. The reality is UKIP do not have a chance. They don't have a snowball's, in hell's chance of winning the next general election, unfortunately, right? And that's why you've got to be utterly ruthless, take emotion out of it. I love the fact that they're the Christian ethos, but get on board this train and make a difference, because it will make a difference if we all join this. If we can get this up to 30,000 in a couple of weeks or less, then that's going to give Ben a massive boost, and it's going to mean that basically this is something that's a serious player. Because a lot of people, I tell you what, Ricky, I don't know what you thought yesterday, because me and you spoke this morning. I was disappointed with some of the influencers. I was disappointed with some of the big social media influencers not getting on board and saying, let's give Ben a go, let's encourage him. A lot of negativity. Typical. Do you know what? It's typically British, isn't it? We'd rather tear something down. If that was in America, everyone would be high-fiving him, slapping him on the back. But no, it's like, oh, I'm not sure about this, Ben. I'm not sure it's a good idea. Split the vote. What about reform? What about UKIP? Come on, give the guy a break.
Well, there's still a lot of people that are kind of under the veil of reform, that are still thinking that reform are the way to go forward. I wish they were. I really wish they were. We wouldn't have had to go through all of this. But what you've got to remember is they booted out Ben Habib, they booted out Rupert Law, and they even used some dirty tactics on Rupert Law by putting out some fake news stories and propaganda. And that type of tactics, I don't want to be involved with that type of tactics. I just think it's so underhand. It's not genuine. It's got no integrity in it. And I think if people still want to follow reform after all of that, it's their own choice. But I'm pretty sure that people are going to wake up. And I hope that potentially this can be the political solution, because we need it. We're really kind of short. And I think I can see that it's inspired you, and you're somebody that I value a lot. So the fact that it's inspired you to this level, it's definitely added some impetus on my thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Ricky. And look, I mean, there's somebody saying that was a serious question. Look, I hope I wasn't being disparaging when I was answering that question. Great British Media, because I wasn't. What I'm saying is, I think as much as look, I'm very fond of UKIP as a brand, because I was involved in it with Gerard Batten. Gerard was a great guy, probably the greatest leader that Britain never had. Very, very intelligent. He was visionary. He could see what was happening with radical Islam. He could see what was happening, that we weren't going to get Brexit. He knew what was going on, and he basically got shafted, from what I can tell, by Farage acolytes. So that caused a massive problem. I gave UKIP another chance, and when I was in the party, I was promoting them. And I was also critical of them for things I didn't think were right. And I'll be the same with Ben. If Ben does something that I think's wrong, and I speak to him privately about it, and he ignores it, then I'll be publicly critical. And I think that's the way we've got to be. If you've got a problem with someone, you go to them personally. I messaged both Nick and Ben Walker from UKIP yesterday. I said, guys, this we've got to get on board with this. That's what I believe. So I can't be a hypocrite. I can't say, oh, I think this is a really good idea, and then not tell the people that I'm in a party with. So I told them, and then I said I'm resigning. So it's as simple as that. It's got to be we're in a very serious situation, and time is absolutely the essence. And I was pushing Ben on this. I was saying, Ben, you need to do this. You need to start this party. I mean, he must have got sick of getting my little text saying, "Come on, Ben, when's this happening? When's this happening?" Because I knew that if he did it, he would get massive support. And look, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be things that go wrong. There's going to be squabbles. There's going to be spats. It happens in every single group, every single party, every single church, every single military. There's people that don't get on. I don't care whether people like me or not. I don't care whether UKIP have bent out of joint because I've left and left very publicly. The point is that this has to work, because if it doesn't work, our country's lost. It's as simple as that. SDP ain't doing it. Britain First ain't doing it. UKIP ain't doing it. Heritage Party ain't doing it. They're not going to win the next general election. When you have a man that gets over 8,000 people joining his party overnight, believe you me, he's onto something. That's a big thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Has integrity kind of stopped now? And this one is kind of it's like almost like a name change.
Yes, and as far as I know, again, look, do you know what? This is the thing. I'm enthusiastic about this, but I'm not in the inner workings. I've got friends in the inner workings. You know, obviously Ben and a couple of other people, but I'm not in the inner sanctum of what's going on. So I'm just going pretty much everything that you know. I know, Ricky. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, this was integrity. It's basically there's a name change. What Ben has said, once he gets to 30,000, he will then go through the process with the Electoral Commission and get the party officially registered as a political party, because obviously that takes a long. You know, it's like with anything. People think you can just like send them the form and it's not like that. It's a tortuous thing. So that's the plan. That basically Ben gets to his 30,000. Then, I mean, he's putting 100 grand of his own money in.
Yeah, serious. And do you know what? Right, yeah. I like that. I like the fact that the leadership has got their own money, because when the leadership is not got their own money, then it's very possible that the leadership are out looking for money all the time, and that can be a problem. That's why Donald Trump was so successful and is so successful in America, because he's got his own money, which means he can't be bought out. And if you want to see an example of that, you've got to look at reform, and you've got to see how their policies shifted potentially because of the certain money they were getting off certain people. And then all of a sudden their policies are shifting on immigration, on the burqa, on all of this type of things, and things start shifting around because of money. But when the party leaders have already got money, it's a very good position.
It is a very good position. And not just that, have been successful enough in business. So, okay, business doesn't necessarily transfer to politics. But listen, I'd rather have a Donald Trump or a Ben Habib running the country than the Ginger Growl or what's her name, and Angela Rayner. You know, I mean, let's get it right. You know what I mean? You know, who was raving in Ibiza last year when there was some crisis going on back in the UK after they won the election. So to me, we need to get rid of Labour. And what needs to happen is we can't do it with a little tiny itsy bitsy majority. What this party, whatever it shakes out as, because again, we're talking about at the beginning, Ricky. Restore with Rupert, right? Massive support straight away. He's up to like 80,000 people following his Restore page on Twitter in 24 hours, right? Now, that if I was sitting in Reform HQ at the minute, if I was sitting in the bunker with Ava Brown and Goebbels and all the others that are sitting there with Nigel, and I would be thinking, listen, the Allies and the common, who's going to get to us first, the Russians or the Allies? Do you know what I mean? He is in big trouble. He's in big trouble. And so look, and I'm not gloating about that, because at the end of the day, I would have loved Nigel to have been the real deal, but I just don't think he is, Ricky. We've been there too often. We've been burnt too often. He did it. He was saying exactly the same thing about Tommy Robinson and his supporters in 2018 as he said this year. But what he doesn't realize is we were a minority sport that back then, Ricky. Do you know what I mean? There was very few of us were putting our head above the parapet, and of course it was very costly back then in all sorts of realms, financially, families, everything was basically getting torn apart because of our involvement in the movement, right? But it's different now, because the vast majority of people in the country realize, especially the working class. And the other thing is, Ricky, I mean, here's the thing that we need to do. And this is where UKIP and Nick Tinconi, if they came on board with this project, could have a massive influence. Nick is the working class like Nick. He's kind of like the way they like Tommy, right? Because he's ballsy, he gets in people's faces, he's bold, you know, and that's needed as well, because that attracts working class men like that, right? That's why Tommy's so loved by working class men, because you know it's like something goes wrong, it's bish bash bosh, and there's someone lying in a pool of blood because they've basically attacked Tommy, and it's gone badly for them because they think because he's 5'5" he can't fight. You know what I mean? So you know, but there's something in that. There's something in that that people like and admire, that he's not backing down. You know, and so you can have both. You can have. Yeah, sorry, go on, Ricky.
No, go on, brother.
No, what were you going to say, mate?
I was going to say, I think Nick's, you know, he's playing a key role in the whole kind of movement of what's happening, and with the Overton window shifting, and you know that bombastic kind of, and he started it with Turning Point UK. He never just started being like that with UKIP. It was happening with Turning Point UK, and that probably was a big part of opening the door at UKIP. And then when he got into UKIP, you know, he just kind of continued that momentum that he had with Turning Point UK. And I think he's done a great job. And some of that activism work that he's doing at the minute, there's nobody kind of questioning these type of things in that type of bombastic way, with that type of bravery. And I agree with you. That's why a lot of people are resonating with him. And so there's a role to play in the future as well. And I do believe that we all have got to stop looking at our differences and start looking at what unites us and what common ground we have. And you know, if an enemy steps into the country, which it certainly has in many different ways, then everybody's got to unite, forget about our differences, and look to take on that enemy. And I think that's what we've got to do on our side of the fence as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I think. So even if you know UKIP don't come on board with this project, I'm not gonna start slagging them off and attacking them, because there's absolutely a place for that sort of activism and that sort of energy, and that's really, really important. My point is a very simple one. They ain't going to win an election anytime soon. That's all I'm saying. So
I think that's the main point.
It might be better for them to keep doing what they're doing and keep that pressure on, and like you say, just literally not just moving the Overton window, smashing the Overton window. Do you know what I mean? You know, so all that is great stuff. But I think for now, Ben, this is Ben's time, and to me, he needs our help, and he needs our support, and that's why I've you know done a, you know, basically jumped over the fence and gone and joined Advance UK. But I would just suggest everybody listen, if you're following me, you've never seen me as excited about this since apart from when we did the pledge, because the pledge again is a massive part of this, believe it or not. The pledge in the background is the ideology that is influencing this part of the movement. I'll be honest with you, that's the truth. And I'm not saying that that's not hypeable. That is genuinely the truth. And remember, the pledge was fully grounded in Christianity. You don't have to be a Christian to sign the pledge, but it was grounded in Christianity. And if you haven't signed the pledge, get across and sign it, because one of the things about the pledge is it sits above the party politics. So, you know, when I was in UKIP, I was still involved in the pledge. Now I'm involved in Advance, I'm still involved in the pledge. So sign the pledge, because the pledge can be used if something goes dramatically wrong, and you know, with Advance or with whatever party it ends up as, and we've got the pledge, we can call people to account and say, where does your politics sit within these principles, which are very broadly what we've put in the pledge is Christian principles that made our country great. So there's so many good things happening, Ricky. There's so many good things happening, and I'm just mega excited. Lisa, thanks for that. Really, really appreciate it. It's still there. I mean, it's, you know, it's sitting there. It's about, I think it's about, when we took all the duplication out, I think the pledge is sitting around between 50 and 60,000 people signed up, and we don't bug them. We don't send them emails every day. We don't ask them for money. It's just something that is there to call politicians to account at election times, at the general elections. That's what it's there for. And we've got to keep pushing that as well, because if we have 1 million people on the pledge, and Ben's got like 500,000 people in his party, and Rupert's got 500,000 people in his movement, that's, you know, this makes it very, very influential. And of course, the other thing is, Ricky, there's loads of other influences there as well. What about, how do we get the churches involved, mate? How do we get the black churches? I know you're involved with the black churches. How do we get evangelicals to get out of their little flipping bubbles of waiting for the rapture and realize that you've got to actually fight for the, you know, for your country and for your people?
Well, churches are kind of supposed to be traditionally apolitical in a way, in terms of everybody's soul is important, whether you're a Labour Party member or a Labour Party MP or a Conservative or an Advance UK or whatever. So that's kind of the default position of the church, is that everybody needs to be loved equally, and everybody's soul is equally as important as the next person. So I understand why a lot of ministers and preachers and pastors and churches want to stay apolitical. I completely understand it. Now, what I would say with the church is, when the church see a party or an organization that is willing to represent the church, then I think that might be something that churches can kind of get behind. But definitely in recent history in the UK, you've never seen it in any of these mainstream parties, Reform included. They've hardly mentioned the word Christianity. So I think the churches certainly would feel like there's not many people in mainstream politics or many parties that would represent them or their interests. And that would be one way to engage the church. And certainly I'm an advocate for that myself, as you are, which is, let's take care of Christian values. And one thing that is really important for me is the declaration, the understanding, and the made clear that Britain is a Christian country. And the politicians, and especially elected politicians and governing parties, should be able to announce that proudly, without any kind of fear or any need to be politically correct, and say, we are a Christian country. We're tolerant of other religions, people with no religion. But when it comes to the country and our value system, we are Christian, and we stand on that heritage, and we don't move from it. And I think that would go a long way to engage the churches.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, it was, you know, you've got to get on that David Vance stream and watch what Ben said, because he was saying, you know, and as far as I know, Ben is not an evangelical Christian. You know, I don't know where he stands in terms of faith, and that's not my business. It's not my business what anybody believes. I know what I believe, and I believe I know it's the truth, but it's up to other people to come to God in their own time and in their own way. But I mean, I think that the reality is that he had a very, very strong message on how important Christianity was to the culture of the United Kingdom. And he said, we must promote this over and above any other faith. And he said, you can't have Sharia. No Sharia. You can't have Sharia. Sharia courts have got to go.
Zero.
They've got to close. They've got to close, you know. And that's closing Sharia, banning Sharia law in the UK would be a massive step forward, because Sharia law is misogynistic. One, it's anti-Christ. For one, it's completely against the teachings of the Bible, and it is a repressive ideology that's keeping women as little more than chattel and allowing men to have multiple wives. It's got to go. Halal, ritual slaughter, and I would even say the other one, the Jewish one. You can't ritually slaughter animals in the UK. Kosher, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. I'm sorry.
It just needs to be stopped. If it means people want to leave the country just so they can butcher the way they want to, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got too many people in this country that are trying to enforce their own cultures from whatever country they came from, and they're in the same process, they're insulting, disrespecting British culture. It has to stop one way or another. It's got to stop. I hope it doesn't go the negative direction that you spoke about earlier. Like, nobody wants to see a civil war where people are hurt, people are killed. Nobody wants to see that. But politically, we've got to fix it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's why this is so important. So I'm going to be very radical on this, right? And I'm going to have zero tolerance on anyone that's basically, attacking what we're trying to do, because the truth of the matter is, I know what we're doing is right, Ricky. I know it's right. It's like, it's not this. I am driven by this there's nothing, doing this absolutely has consumed my life since 2017. Actually, well before that, first started sort of activism in 2014, something like that. But I wasn't as vocal. But the reality is, this has consumed me for nearly 10 years, and I can't stop until we win. And I know we're going to win. And until this weekend, I thought we might not win peacefully, but now I think we can win peacefully. I think we can win without any chaos, or if And the other great thing about Ben is half Pakistani. Right? His dad's a Muslim, his mum's Christian, right? He's brought up in the Church of England school, according to this lady here, right? So the reality is, he kind of straddles the two sides, and he's as skeptical and cynical about radical Islam as any of us are. But the point is, nobody can point the finger at Ben or say that man's a racist, because he's not. He's doing what's right for the country. He could have a very easy, comfortable life, but he's not. He's sacrificing that same way that Tommy is. Tommy has sacrificed so much for this country. And let's not forget, when's Tommy in court, Ricky? Is it this week?
This week.
It's this Thursday, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Again, guys, pray for Tommy. And if you can get to the court case, I'm not sure of the timing, because I've been totally out of the loop, because I've been that busy doing other stuff. But get to that court case for Tommy. If anyone knows what the timings are or where it is, please put it in the comments, because I've just been doing Northern Ireland stuff for the past month, and I
literally just prayed for him before I jumped in this stream. I was on my own stream on my channel, and the last thing I did before I jumped off, we prayed for Tommy in that stream. So it's going to be well with Tommy. That thing is not going to stick. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, we've got to keep praying though until it's gone. Do you know what I mean? We've got to keep praying, Ricky, until that nonsense, disgusting lawfare that these vile and these people. Do you know what, Ricky? We are fighting against demonic powers. That's what people don't realize.
Principalities in darkness.
David Vance said it. David said it before you came on. He said this is demonic what we're facing. And we've got to be really, really praying and really, really seeking God and getting very, very serious about our faith, because that's the only thing that's going to make a difference. Listen, I fail every single day, so I'm not trying to put anyone on a guilt trip. I fail dismally every single day.
Nobody's perfect in this world. The Pope's not perfect. The preacher's not perfect. Nobody is perfect. If whether they're called bishop or pastor or apostle or whatever. Everybody is flawed. So the misunderstanding around Christianity that a lot of Britain got is that people thought that Christianity is something that judges you in terms of you have to be perfect. You better not make a mistake. And it's completely the opposite. It's the grace to make mistakes and to still be held in good standing with God, So Christianity it's been misconceived, but now the nation's starting to wake up to the reality and the truth of the Lord Jesus Christ and Christianity. And it's also come at the same time that the nation is waking up politically as well. And it's by no coincidence, of course. And if you look at what's happening in America, the spiritual and the political are aligned as well. Same with Hungary, same with France with Marine Le Pen. I know they're pushing the Christian ideology and values as well. And so the foundation of the West is beginning to rise up into the mainstream and right in time.
This is it's an amazing time. I just want to respond to this guy. Ricky, simple question. Were you fired from UKIP or did you resign? There's a lot of confusion. I've got the receipts. I resigned. I resigned. I sent an email. In fact, well, I'm not going to go into it, but I resigned. I sent a letter some time ago, and the letter was held. But then I sent another email yesterday saying that I was resigning from the party with immediate effect. So I resigned. And if anybody wants to see the receipts, they can see them. So wherever that's coming from, I don't really care. It's not important.
And that's you, Rich. But remember, he's saying Ricky. He might be talking to me as well, because I also.
Good point. Yeah.
So let me also address it, because somebody asked me at the rally on Saturday. So I resigned. I wasn't fired, and I left on very good terms with Nick. He's my brother. I love him. I left on good terms with Ben Walker. He's also my Christian brother, and I love him a lot. And the only reason I left was because I'm I only want to be in a political party to try and take that government. I'm not interested in being in a political party for any other reason. And I just felt like maybe UKIP were not there yet in terms of winning elections. I ran a local election, and the vibe that I got on the doorstep was that people are not ready to kind of go towards UKIP. And that was the only reason why I came out. There was nothing bad that happened. There was nothing. There was no disagreement with the leadership. It was nothing like that. And that's why I've not came out and said anything detrimental to the party or to Nick and Ben. It's simply a personal decision, and that's why I've not joined another party yet, because I want to make sure that when I join the party, and it could be Advance, I don't know yet, but when I join a party, I need to be sure that they're going to have a very good go and crack at taking that parliament, because that's the only reason I want to be in a political party. I don't want to be in a political party for any other reason.
And somebody just put in the comments about Advance not putting Christ first. Well, all I can say is I know the people that are at the top table, so to speak. Right, I'm not going to say who they are because I don't think that they want the names out there, right? But basically, both of them are Christian. Obviously, Ben's very sympathetic to Christianity, and one of them is a very, very strong Christian, a very good friend of mine. So I absolutely know that there's a lot of Christian influence over the Advanced Party. Now, I'm not speaking on behalf of Ben or on behalf of even the people there, but I know that there's some very strong Christians at the top tier of that party, and that's really important because, again, it's, I'm exactly the same as you, Ricky. I've got to know that what I'm doing is right, and everybody might think, well, you've rushed into this. Well, actually, I haven't, because I've been thinking about it, and I said to Ben, if he does it, I would support him. So, I'm just putting my money where my mouth is, literally, and saying,
sure,
I'm not only
that's your own choice. Nobody can say nothing.
Exactly. I'm joining, and let's have a look. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's basically that's basically what it's all about. Well, Ricky, listen, that was a good stream, mate. I mean, we listen, and everybody that's joined, everybody that's commented, I genuinely thank you for your comments, unless you've been insulting or abusive, and if you have, you get banned. But the good guys that's been commenting and making very good points in there, I appreciate it. And again, look, we're not all going to agree on everything, but we're all going in the same direction. We're all on the same path. We all basically believe that the country needs to be saved, and it needs a vehicle to save it. And from my point of view, my advice to the 1,000 people that are sitting watching this stream now, if you haven't done so already, get on that website at advanceuk.org.uk, pay your tenner, join the party. Let's take Downing Street by storm in 2029, because that is the only way we're going to have a chance of saving this country. If we get another left-wing government, or a progressive government, or even a Tory government, or even a Reform government, we're finished. This is the real deal now. This is the real deal. So I'm not gonna debate with anyone about it, because I know what I'm doing is right. I'm absolutely convinced what I'm doing is right. But if you have your own opinions on that, that's absolutely fine. Andrew Bridgen, yeah, that's a good call. It'd be great to get Andrew Bridgen involved. Reference Tommy and his influence. Tommy's a very smart guy. Tommy knows what's going to win and what's not going to win. He's no mug. And again, I'm not going to speak for Tommy, because I haven't spoken to Tommy for a while myself. But let's just wait and see what happens on that one, because again, and at the end of the day, Tommy's actually kind of very clever, because he doesn't hitch himself to too many wagons.
No, he doesn't,
because people have been begging. I mean, Britain First have been making overtures to Tommy for years. Nick Tenconi's been making overtures to Tommy for a long time to join. Why would he? Why would he join a party? He doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Because
he's got the Unite the Kingdom movement.
He's got the Unite the Kingdom movement, and he can just say to the Unite the Kingdom movement, "Follow Ben, go. He's that way, or follow UKIP, or whatever he decides." And whenever he does that, whatever party he does that for, will get massive support. And Ben knows that as well. Ben knows the score, and Ben knows how important. I was saying, Ricky, before you came on board, we are that lot. Remember, Richard Tice called us that lot.
Yep.
Ben Habib knows how important that lot are, and Ben values us, right? And there's Alex. Somebody saying Alex Phillips is a Farage fangirl. She is. I like Alex Phillips, but I don't agree with her on the way she attacks Ben. She's some beef with Ben. I don't know what it is, but she's always sticking it on Ben, and I don't think it's fair because. Yeah, that's a good point. The college. I mean, this is the other thing. The structure of the party, Ricky. The Ben's going to set up this college of about 100 people that are going to be advisors. And I think that's it's like School of the Prophets. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a great idea. And, are they always going to get it right? No. But I mean, if you've got 100 people that are basically handpicked and they're from a very broad background, it's, it's good. Ricky, thanks for coming on, man. That's an hour. It flew in. Yeah, I'm excited though, as you can tell. I'm a little bit.
Which is good. I'm feeling.
But I'm also in the mode. We've got to be utterly ruthless, Ricky. If we know something's right, we cannot bend or break. We've got to set our face like flint, and go down our own, go in our own direction. And John Capone, Ben is a real top man. He is. He's a top guy, and if we had Ben Habib as an ex-prime minister, I would sleep a lot better in my bed than if it was Farage or Kemi or Jenrick or whoever. So let's just see what happens next. But I mean, my goodness. And again, everybody, thanks for coming on tonight. We're over 1,000 still watching us, Ricky. Which. I only advertised this 15 minutes before I went on.
That's great.
It's great. It's great. Ricky, do you want to close us in prayer, brother? And pray for all the people in the comments there, man.
Sure. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for this stream. Thank you for Richard's life, Lord. Thank you for everybody in the comment who's connected to this. Lord, we pray for everybody in the name of Jesus that they are protected today in the mighty name of Jesus, that no plans of the enemy or the darkness shall overcome them in the mighty name of Jesus. We decree and declare, Lord, that the future of this country is secure. The future of this country is in your hands, Lord. And we are turning back to you as the ultimate solution over any political party, over any politician, because you, Lord, are the light. You are the way, the truth, and the life. And we trust in you. We thank you, Lord God. We pray for Ben Habib, Lord. We pray that he comes to a revelation of your glory and your reality and your sovereignty in the mighty name of Jesus. And we pray that all pieces come together at the right time in order to bring this country to another place of greatness in your name. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Thanks, Ricky. Thanks. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Again, I think these are we're living in absolutely monumental times. We're living through real amazing history, amazing shaking of the nations, and there's going to be a lot coming against us, and there's going to be a lot standing with us. But remember, and I say this, and I'm not being manipulative, God is on our side. I'm not saying that I think he is. I know he is, because we're standing against evil. We're standing against this killing of babies. We're standing against this euthanasia. We're standing against the perversion that's everywhere. We're standing against kids being mutilated. We're standing against foreign religions being allowed to come into our country and invade and take over. We're standing against all that, and we're doing it in the right way. We're doing it with love and with grace, but also with a steely resolve, where we are setting our faces like flint, and we're saying we're not going to bend or break no matter what. Listen, Ricky, you've been through a hard time last few years. I've been through a hard time. We've all had a lot of stuff come against us. We're still here.
We're still standing.
It's just like
and
that song,
smiling.
Still smiling. I've got less teeth than you, Ricky, but I'm still smiling anyway. That's what happens when you get as old as me. You know what I mean? But brilliant. Listen, brother, God bless you. Thanks everyone for coming on. Join Advance, sign the pledge, get involved, get your hands dirty, get out on the streets, listen, 13th of September, make sure you're there on the 13th of September. It's going to be massive. Some of the names that are going to be on the platform, absolutely world-class. Ant Middleton.
Yeah. Oh, has he agreed?
As far as I know, I saw on Tommy's
I
Twitter.
I really like him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And listen, Ant Middleton took a stand during COVID, right? He took a stand and it looked like it was going to cost him his career and everything. He's been slandered, he's been demeaned, he's been demonized. He's one of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
And,
part of the team.
listen, I wouldn't want to go toe to toe with him and have a scrap. Do you know what I mean? I'm too old for that. You know what I mean? He's a proper operator.
I think he seems to me like he's got the right heart, and that's what this is all about now. It's about the heart.
He loves his country, and he's fought for his country, and he's put himself in the line of fire. He's gone through doors and killed bad guys. He's the real deal. You know, he's a real proper bloke, and we need more real men like that, more real men that'll take a stand. And apparently all the women love him as well, but there you go.
and of course Jordan Peterson's going to be there as well.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson's going to be there, and his wife. I think Steve Bannon's going to be there.
Steve Bannon, I mean, come on.
Bannon.
I can't wait to be backstage.
Well, this is the whole thing. I mean, just to meet Steve Bannon, because
Fantastic.
Steve Bannon, you know, I was saying earlier on, Ricky, before you came on, you know, tactics with, and this is where, you know, the sort of where you've got to look at the bigger picture, right? Tactics without strategy is just the sound before defeat, right? And that's such a true saying, because we can be tactically superb, but if we don't have a strategy, we're going nowhere. And now with what Ben's done and what Rupert's doing, this is why I'm so excited. There's a strategy, you know, and it's not by accident that people have been praying for this. It's not by accident that Christ's name's been exalted at every single one of the Unite the Kingdom demos. So Unite the Kingdom on the 13th of September are a massive part of this, a massive and vital part of this. In fact, I go as far as to say, Ricky, if it wasn't for the Unite the Kingdom movement and what we've achieved in the last year, every single demo peaceful, no aggregation of funds. Yes. I'm talking to the police tomorrow on this about what, you know, about the planning for the event. So if we hadn't been doing this right and doing it right and kept it peaceful, we wouldn't be in this position now. Yeah. Where the British working class for the first time are literally joined hand in hand with people who are not the same as us, and that's what we've got with Rupert and with Ben and the Christian influence, and it's all coming together. So, you know, oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's going to be good. And listen, pray for Tommy and get to that demo, get to that court case on Thursday. Find out where it is. I don't know where it is, but get to it wherever it is. I think it's Southwark, isn't it? Is it Southwark?
I'm not sure.
I have a feeling it. Well, I think it could be. But anyway, check it on his Twitter and go get down there. If you're in London, get down there. I'm on another island in the middle of the North Atlantic, so I'll not be there. But guys, okay, listen, I'm going to go. Ricky, God bless you, man. If you want to hang about 2 seconds in the back,
sure,
the back office, not the back office, the green room. Hang about in the green room, mate. Bear with me.
I'll be there.
I'm going to end the stream, guys. Thanks for watching. Sign the pledge. Join Ben's party. See you soon.